Hey everyone, welcome to r/Tales from Tech Support, where we get to have a little chuckle at the technologically disadvantaged. Like me. I'm Uncle Reddit, and have I got a story for you. Can't print with white text. I work in a shipping company's IT department. We're about 100 people and we're all in the same building. Or did he mean same building? So one day, a middle-aged guy from sales department calls. Sales. Hey, need your help. Can't print properly. Need to print white text. Me. You what? Sales. Come here. So I went to his room and I saw an open document on Word, all black with the white text in the middle. You would say, well, that would be a huge amount of ink, but it'll work. Sadly, the guy bought a bunch of black sheets and put them in the printer, blaming that they remained black. Me. There is no white ink in the printer. Sales. And? White is the sum of all colors. Me. This applies to light. Sales. Ah, crap. Yeah, unfortunately, people just don't understand how that works. And I've had to explain it to a few people over the years. Although it would be really cool if you could do that. So if anybody from Canon's listening, hey, why don't you jump right on that? That time I spammed the VPs with approval from my manager. So in one of my old jobs, I was on a small 5 to 6 person help desk, and we were using ServiceNow. After 12 plus years in help desk, I loved ServiceNow. It just works. Naturally, I was crushed when we were told one day that it was going away because it cost a darn fortune. SCSM, as some of you will know, is a Microsoft-produced service tool. It interfaces well with SCCM, but it is not near as popular, mostly because it can be like pulling teeth to work with. All this is a long way of saying that when one of our senior guys quit to take a better job, the whole broken-ass ticket system was dropped in my lap. And I was the only guy on the desk with a CIS degree, and I'd been angling for non-help desk work for many years, so I was glad to take it on, between calls. I ran with it. I hauled that company kicking and screaming into ITIO. In the couple of years I worked there, we went from every ticket is emailed to help desk and auto-generates an incident to every service request is submitted via the appropriate form on the self-service portal. Repetitive tasks have been automated, and some ticket types can be completed without a human operator ever seeing them. Not bad for having no tester environment, no support, no experience, and no documentation. A big part of that was manager approvals. We were used to having to chase down managers to approve things, with tickets stuck in our queues indefinitely until they were completed. I said F that, and set up automatic emails to managers with ticket details and hot links. They could approve tickets from their iPhone inbox in seconds. Now, of course, everything ran smoothly forever. Nah, actually what happened was that managers would ignore the emails and then people would get pissed that they didn't have access to that super private share folder yet. One day I looked and saw all the tickets backed up waiting for approvals, so I devised a new system. A certain length of time after a ticket came in, the email would be sent again. After that, the email would be resent every morning. I scripted and tested it, then presented it to my manager. I told him, if I turn this on, every manager who's been ghosting us will get spammed. Hard. He gave me the go-ahead. I felt a little spike of glee as I flipped that switch. Within minutes, my manager had a call direct from a VP. Why the hell did you just send me 300 emails? The question was asked of me, and my reply was because he ignored 300 tickets, but I find a nicer way to say that, I guess. Warn him that it'll happen again tomorrow morning. I think my team lead was chuckling behind me. There was some reevaluation of who was required to approve things after that. A lot of stuff would be inherited upward when people left the company. So over the years, a lot of stuff just floated to the top. Upper management would ignore the requests, and eventually the users would find their own workarounds. Or someone on help desk would just give them the access when it became urgent. It fills me with pride every time I think about the time I was able to expose the IT security negligence of the entire management culture with just one click of a button. Heart emoji. I love it when a whole corporate environment of people just ignores certain key aspects of a business, and then they want to be the first ones to whine when it implodes and ends up in their lap. Good for you, OP. Why IT support hates snowflakes. As a T2 IT support guy, I usually receive tickets that T1 have worked on for more than an hour and haven't solved the case. This excludes account activation and resetting passwords. So usually when I give a customer a call, they're glad someone more capable has taken over. T1 has got very little access to the workstations, only simple cases and not having admin privileges. But some cases are special as certain snowflakes. This time around, it's something really simple. User requires to have access to a couple of external servers where some of his work is stored. Windows seems to have wiped all of his access to these remote drives due to a massive update. 1909 to 20H2, old and not up-to-date workstation. Our job is simple, grant him access via AD where T1 does not have enough clearance to do anything. The deadline is in 46 hours at the time the ticket arrives. Obviously that means the priority is set to medium, not NBD, so I give the customer a call to verify what he needs exact access to. Sadly, 5 minutes after the call is over and I come back with a snack to work on his case, 15 more tickets arrive for me and the boys. This day we're only 4 men as everybody else is either sick or taking a couple days off. This means we have enough work for the rest of the day. What's even worse, over half of the new tickets are of NBD priority, which means we have to take care of them first. I set myself a goal, complete my NBD tickets as fast as possible and then take care of my previous customer. But he is much more impatient than I expected, so I get a call from him. Me equals me, obvious. SC equals snowflake customer. Me. Hello, this is me, how can I help you? SC. I still have no access to my files. Me. Sir, I understand your hurry, but you also have to understand me. I just received a lot of unexpected work, which has got a very high priority and short deadlines. I just need to take care of them first. As soon as I'm done with them, I'll look into your case. SC. That is unacceptable. You have to take care of me first. I don't care how much work you've got. My case is of highest priority. Me, looking at his ticket, opened on my laptop. From what I can see, your case is of normal priority, and the deadline is 3 p.m. on Tuesday, the next day. SC. This is unacceptable. And he pulls the good old, I'd like to speak to your manager, Karen card. Obviously, I'm pissed at this point, but I try to keep my composure. Me. I can escalate your ticket to my supervisor, but I have to warn you, he's constantly on the move and usually unreachable, so he might read the email at the end of his day. A couple moments of silence and he ends the call. Fine, I'll take care of the more important tickets, including the CEO's laptop freezing up at the Windows logon screen and blue screening every third attempt of logging in after a restart. 1 hour later, I receive an email from my supervisor saying he changed the priority of the Snowflake customer's ticket. Obviously, I checked that right off and it turns out he did change the priority to MBD, but the deadline is still the same. I smile gratefully. My supervisor has had my back since day one, and I continue my work. Not even 15 minutes passes and I get yet another call from Mr. Snowflake. SC. I've still got no access to my files. Now I'm really irritated. Our company phones have an amazing app installed on them. During a phone call, I can one-click enable call recording, which I do. Me. Sorry, as a formality, I have to inform you, this call is being recorded. SC. Not even noticing what I just said. Listen here, young man. I don't give a F how much work you've got. My work is way more important. The files I'm working on are crucial to my company's standing on the market. If you don't take care of me, I swear to God you're losing your job today. This is the point in time where I snap. Me. Mr. SC, I realize the importance of your work, but I'd like you to imagine something. I've got at least 3 more people whose tickets have a way shorter deadline and are of the same priority, which puts them ahead of your ticket by default. I'm very sorry if you aren't satisfied with the way your case is being handled, but trust me, I'm not happy either. I've just got heaps of cases where company standings and reputation are at stake, and I just simply can't afford not doing them right now. SC launches around on how incompetent I am and how he will have me fired till the end of the week. He mixes in so much cursing, it's almost certain someone will be interested in listening to this conversation. At last, he promises me this is not the end and hangs up. After 3 minutes, I receive a call from the CEO, whose laptop I'm working on. CEO. Hi, me. How are things looking? Me. Well, the laptop just by itself is fine, but there are quite a couple of bad sectors on the hard drive. Looks like the best solution would be to transfer all your data onto an external drive and fit this laptop with a new one. Install Windows and all other software and then transfer all your data. CEO. You can install a new drive right on. I'm backing up my data to OneDrive with a sync interval of 1 hour, so worst case scenario is I've lost a bit of time. But there's something else I'd like to talk to you about. Me. Yes? CEO. One of our company's employees has written a large email explaining how incompetent you are and how you wouldn't take care of his case at all. Me. Let me guess, Mr. SC? CEO. Indeed. I go into explaining the whole case and sending him a recording of our last conversation, which really helped later on. Lucky me. CEO. Alrighty then, just take care of what's your highest priority and don't worry about him. To cut a long story short, I finished all the super important tickets that day, including the CEO's laptop, with literally 15 minutes to deadline on the last one. I was a happy man. Next day I arrive at work, fire up my laptop and take a look through the tickets. To my surprise, this guy's ticket is gone. Apparently somebody else took it and finished what I barely started. Turns out, my mentor knew all about this while working from home, took over the case and solved it. When he had nothing else to work on, that's around 7:20 p.m., he worked the previous day a later shift, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Today, Friday, I found out that Mr. Snowflake has been promoted to customer. They fired him for being a pain in the butt and an absolute D to us. On one hand, I'm feeling a bit bad for him. I knew absolutely nothing about this guy, and it might have just been a bad day all around for him. On the other hand, I just found out the deadline for his case was set for a week before his project's deadline, so he would have comfortably had enough time to finish his project or whatever he was working on. Anyway, that day he learned not to be a jerk to somebody trying to help him. Too long didn't read. A customer behaved like a complete snowflake, thinking his case was the most important, which he eventually got fired for. Yep, it's always about me. Me first. I'm more important. Me. Randomly hanging computer. A very long time ago, mid-90s, I worked as a desktop support tech for the local telecom. One good and bad thing about supporting technical people is that when they have a problem, and Windows randomly hanging was a frequent report. One engineer whose computer randomly hung, he'd called in tickets every couple weeks when he was bored enough to sit through a help desk call. I'd tried everything, re-imaging the computer, changing all the peripherals. I would have just given him a different computer, but he had a tower machine. There was absolutely nothing I could find wrong with his computer, so I brought my laptop into his office and worked there for a day so I could see his computer randomly hang rather than show up 5 hours after the fact. Working from his office, I noticed he was a huge fidgeter too. I've usually got a leg bouncing or fingers tapping. Him? He'd use that tower as an ottoman. He'd also proceed to use his feet to rock the thing back and forth. Oh my god. And when you shake your computer up enough, things that are meant to stay connected move about. I don't know if it was his CPU, early but not so early as to have a FPU problem, Pentium, memory or what, but as soon as he stopped rocking his computer as he worked, he stopped having random hang-ups. Like he said, moving something around that has stationary parts that should stay stationary and moving parts that shouldn't be jostled while they're moving, that's just a bad idea all the way around. Broken airplane. Low-ranking, know-nothing airmen perform 50-cent wiring repair after months of an airplane being in a no-fly condition. I've always wanted to tell this tale here about how myself, a 19-year-old electronics tech and a 19-year-old airframe specialist, repaired an aircraft that had cost the division tens of thousands of dollars and 1,000+ man-hours to not repair. We were exceptionally proud of ourselves. Set the scene. 1980s, Overseas Naval Air Station. Small division. We flew C-12s and C-131 aircraft. The C-131 was a 1950s airframe with reciprocating engines. It was a workhorse. Pretty basic, but also darn reliable. Of the C-131s, we had 3 of them. They were basically a cargo craft with the ability to carry up to 48 passengers. We had one that had been converted to a VIP aircraft and was really pretty inside. However, when the conversion was performed, the attention to detail ended at cosmetics. During various repairs, we had found that they had used household extension cords for wiring in some places. Cue the WTF look for electricians everywhere. Inside, the aircraft had couches, a full kitchen, the whole works. They even installed household paneling. Very important later. On to the problem. The aircraft was equipped with 2 VHF radios for communications, both of which had to be operating in order for the airplane to be in an up status. In the military, an aircraft is up or down for flight status. 962, tail number of the aircraft in question, had been having issues with the VHF-1 radio that would come and go. Then one day, for reasons unknown, it simply stopped working. Many hours were put into getting the aircraft up. They changed radios multiple times. Since I was semi-new from electronics and radio operator school, I was not deemed worthy for helping to troubleshoot, and most times we were set about to clean aircraft or do maintenance checks. At the time, I was also flight crew on these same birds, so while yes, I was new, I was still very familiar with them nonetheless. It was finally determined by the senior technicians that every time the aircraft was powered up, and avionics were powered on, the VHF-1 radio would immediately go into transmit mode. Nothing was being transmitted except static. The attempted solutions. As previously stated, they changed the radio multiple times. Then they changed the wiring harness for the radio. Then they changed the entire radio rack for all the radios. Needless to say, none of this worked. They had spent weeks on these repairs and nothing was working. Finally, it was determined that the issue had to be in the cockpit. Every wire was traced, and they finally determined the only way to fix the issue was to remove and replace the entire cockpit dashboard and instrument cluster. This was no small feat. The airplane sat and sat until the new dashboards arrived. They replaced both sides, pilot and co-pilot. Surely this would fix it, right? The replacements took days. I can still see all the technicians crawling around tiny little places, getting cuts on their hands from trying to get to the wiring that for all intents and purposes was not designed to ever need to be replaced. Technicians were brought from the upper levels, the guys that would normally actually repair the electronics internally. Everyone was in on this. Everyone except us lowly airmen. We would run tools and stuff, but that was the extent of our involvement. New dashboards installed. Now for the moment of truth. Power on. Avionics on. Radio starts transmitting. No! You could feel the dejection of the assembled masses. What could it be? All hope was lost. Weeks the airplane sat. Nobody wanted to go near it. Surely if we ignore it, the problem will just go away, right? Cue the lowly airman. One bright and beautiful day, there was almost no work to be done. Aircraft were flying and not much going on. Myself and Airman Barb were sent to clean the down airplane. When I say clean, I mean detailing. We were given small brushes, think toothbrushes, and instructed to scrub the avionics panels in the cockpit. This was donkey work, but really there wasn't much else to do, so we happily complied. We were best buddies anyways. Pretty soon the cockpit was sparkling and we didn't want to go inside and tell anyone since they would just give us some more crappy work, so we just hung out in the airplane and talked. To this day, I'm not sure what got into me, but the wiring diagrams were laid out in the airplane's galley and Barb and I started having a look-see. Remember, I was flight crew on these planes and knew them very well. Anyways, I started looking at the wiring diagrams and noticed that in the galley where we were laying on the floor, there was a missing microphone jack. Yeah, you know where this is going. The more I thought about the anomaly, the odder it seemed. I looked everywhere. It was supposed to be on the wall above the coffee maker. Surely they wouldn't have simply paneled over it, would they? Nah. Now, as strange as it seems, that is exactly what they had done. This microphone jack was mounted on the side of the electronics bay that dozens of people had been in and out of for the last few months. When Barb and I located the jack, the first thing we noticed was that it was green with corrosion. Surely it could not be this simple. After all, the best minds on the base had been struggling for months with this. Well, a quick squirt of Freon and a little brush took care of all that green. As a radio operator, I was fully qualified to power everything up and run avionics checks. Yeah, you guessed it. The radio worked perfectly. We were two very excited airmen, but how to handle it? Since we were performing maintenance, we had all the paperwork with us, including the original complaint. It was decided. We signed off the repair with exactly what we had done and headed for the maintenance desk. Entering the office, I simply went up to the counter and, as casually as a very excited young airman could, simply stated, 962 is up. You could have heard a effing pin drop. The entire place just went dead quiet. Senior chiefs just looked at me and asked what I meant. I just repeated, 962 is up, and then I headed off to the shop. I do not clearly remember the whole aftermath, but it was pretty frustrating for everyone concerned. Barb and I were never really applauded for what we did, but we were pretty proud. I think acknowledging us would have looked pretty bad since everyone would know that all those senior technicians from all the different divisions and all that money wasted was all in vain. So a lesson to everyone, always start with a kiss, keep it simple, stupid. Too long didn't read. Two lowly Navy airmen repair a plane that had been broken for months with toothbrush and anti-corrosion spray. Yup, keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best solutions. Gotta start with the basics too. I mean, if they were looking at these wiring diagrams and actually following them, how would they not notice that something's missing? Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. If you've enjoyed this content, would you consider giving this video a like, subscribing to the channel, and maybe clicking that little bell icon so that you don't miss the fat guy with the beard telling you stories. See ya!